When God had finished making the whole world, he said that it was good. And when he had made mankind, he said that it was very good. He made a beautiful garden for Adam and Eve. It was a place where they could enjoy God's presence every day. In the cool of the evening, they could walk with him and talk with him as he shined in all his glory. He had told them to enjoy the world that he made, a world free of sin and death and pain. He told them that they could eat of any tree that was in the garden. You could almost imagine them asking about each and every tree, just to be sure. The apple tree? Yes, the apple tree. The cherry tree? Yes, the cherry tree. What about the peach tree? Yes, most certainly the peach tree. What about the lemon tree? It would make their lips pucker, but yes, even the lemon tree. And the watermelon tree? There was no watermelon tree. Then what about the almond tree? Yes, the almonds were good for food. This probably went on for some time, but then the Lord made sure they understood that there was one tree that they must not eat from. That one tree would ruin it all. They must not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because the day they ate of it, they would die. They were not meant to know what God knew. It was too big for them to handle. So God told them not to eat of the tree, even though they could have every other tree. But as time went by, they became more and more interested in that tree. There it was, in the middle of the garden, its fruit looking so delicious and as wonderful as the apples, oranges, cherries, peaches, almonds, walnuts, pecans, and even lemons were. In their hearts, they wanted that forbidden fruit. They wanted to know what God knew. They wanted what God had not given them. But still, they didn't touch it until one fateful day when Satan, masquerading as a serpent, slipped his way into the garden. He knew what they wanted. They wanted to disobey God, and all they needed was a little push. Eve and Adam were close to the tree, probably looking longingly at the fruit, when the serpent started his temptation with Eve. "Looks good, doesn't it?" he said to Eve. "Why, yes it does," she answered, "but I'm afraid we can't have any of it." "What? Who says?" the serpent laughed. Adam said nothing. "Well, God says," Eve replied. "He's the one who made me and Adam, and he takes really good care of us." Does he really?" the serpent said, in a not-so-nice way. "Then why can't you eat of this tree?" "Because God said if we ate of it, we'd die. We can't even touch it." Now, God hadn't said they couldn't touch it, but somehow that got added to God's command. Meanwhile, Adam still said nothing. "Did God really say that?" the serpent said with a laugh. Adam said nothing. "Surely you won't die. God knows that when you eat of it, you'll know good and evil like he does. Wouldn't he want that? After all, it's going to make you happy. And wouldn't God want you to be happy?" Eve must have looked at Adam, but Adam said nothing. "Well, if you think it would be all right," Eve said, reaching for the forbidden fruit, "it does look really good." And Adam still said nothing. Eve bit into the fruit. At this point, Adam probably watched to make sure Eve didn't start choking or foam at the mouth or get a stomachache or fall over dead. When she didn't, he probably thought, well, she didn't die. So when Eve gave him the fruit, he took and ate of it. Then suddenly it happened. They saw good from evil, and they knew they were wrong. And they stood there ashamed until they heard the sound of God in the garden. They were so ashamed they ran and hid. But God can always see us. God called out for them, even though he knew where they were. Like a parent who has found a disobedient child, God questioned them, and he knew immediately that they had eaten the forbidden fruit. He told them the consequences. Adam and Eve and all of their children would have selfish hearts just like them. The world would become a broken place, and though they were meant to be a mirror showing God's goodness to all of creation, instead, all of creation would mirror the brokenness and sin of Adam and Eve. Floods, hurricanes, droughts, painful thorns would remind them over and over that this isn't the way God made it. He had made us to be with Him, and so they must be separated from God the King and His kingdom. That wasn't the end of the story. God would cover them with cloaks of fur, which would remind them that one day He would clothe them with the righteousness and goodness of His Son, the King. That one day, the King would come and make it all right again. A second Adam to do what the first could not do. He would obey God the Father perfectly, and He would bring eternal life and full forgiveness, and He would crush the head of the serpent once and for all. As Paul would later write in 1 Corinthians 15:24-26, then comes the end, when He delivers the kingdom to God the Father after destroying every rule and every authority and power. For He must reign until He has put all His enemies under His feet. The last enemy to be destroyed is death. But until then, Adam and Eve had to leave the garden and leave the presence of God. And God placed an angel with a flaming sword at the entrance of the garden to block that way back. The only way back would be through His Son, the King.